media, radio, and television. Because my first topic is I'm going to speak today in this session about how to write for radio. I mean, writing writing script for media, something radio. So this is what I'm going to speak to you uh, because DCE 4 your subject is DCE 4 writing for media, radio, and television. The very first, that is what I have. I'm showing you the slide. I mean, the very first slide here, radio and its potential and introduction. Writing for radio, the first part is comes under radio and its potential and introduction. The very unit introduces basic guidelines and outlines for writing for various programs on radio. This is what you are for your information because you are pursuing this course. You are supposed to understand what is what the basic guidelines and the outlines for writing for various programs because the radio might be knowing how radio is playing an important role in one's individual academic and in one's individual life because we all know that. And the first, part speaks about the basic guidelines and outlines for writing for various programs on radio, and also it speaks about technical rules about script writing because for electronic media, because as a journalist, as an academician, as the pursuit of something academic excellence, in journalistic field, you're supposed to know what the technicals. I mean, what are the technical rules you are supposed to follow. You're supposed to bear in mind while writing. I mean, script writing for electronic media because there are there are many points, key points you are supposed to remember. I'll tell you in the meantime of my presentation and also the very radio in the sense we all know that documentaries because the radio it transmits many programs like documentaries it's about transmits documentaries features plays and children programs. There are many programs even competitive programs these days which are transmitting that being transmitted by the radio station. I mean from the radio station and how while radio when you are talking about the radio how the technical stuffs are going to make it a point when you are working for radio and its potential for the good thing presenter how a presenter works for the radio to transmit a program and how producer produces it how it makes it a point and actors I know how actors are going to be used for the what transmission of a particular activity of an activity and how reporters are going to play a major role in transmitting the things. That is what the thing is about. So as we all know that radio which was introduced in August 1921 uh, just a minute I'll tell you because it is very mentioned in the first thing how radio was introduced in just a minute. Here it is there. Indian Broadcasting Company. It is functioned from 1927 to 30. I mean, from Bombay and Kolkata. The very transistor revolution and abolition of license fee in respect of single and two band transistor in 1980, and even we all know that radio as a strong competitor in television. I mean, uh, and it's also discuss about some important radio broadcasts, which include documentaries, features, plays, and children's programs, even in that. And also in the first part, they have given also how radio is competing with TV, because radio is not much inexpensive to own actually, because it is not much expensive, as we all know that. Radio programs comparatively inexpensive to produce and broadcast because when you compare to TV, because you're supposed to invest more, much and more money on it. But whereas I mean, on radio, you're not it will be a much inexpensive to own, and TV is an expensive to own. And when you talk about the mobility, I mean transportability, I can take anywhere you like because if you want to take it to some where you where at all you want to, you are very much passionate about traveling, you can take along with the they can take radio along with you. But whereas not the TV because you cannot carry the TV to wherever you go. Like there's a mobility wise, radio is a wonderful instrument and wonderful time and thing. and not possible to move it wherever one moves because the TV I'm talking about. And when you speak about, I mean, radio, longer hours to broadcast. Even you broadcast from morning till evening, so nothing you are going to spend anything about it. So when you are because talking about TV because it has shorter hours to broadcast. It is a shorter hour of broadcast. You cannot play the TV. You cannot play the TV. You can watch the TV from morning till evening because the TV will never be very much durable like. But whereas the radio, in case of radio, it has a longer hours of broadcast and fidelity to sound reproduction. I mean, not so perfect in its audio function because TV is when compared to very other fidelity because it has some loyalty to sound reproduction. I mean, because it has a chance because whereas in the radio because he would speak to the other person that you could see that because you never see the visibility of a man who is speaking on the radio, but whereas you can see the TV because it is a recorded one because TV the programs are being telecasted which are recorded one, whereas in the radio on radio so people, sometimes you can see the online also. That is what when you compare it to radio and TV and lack of visuals because we cannot see the people because visual visibility is not much significant in the in radio, but visual add to its value because whereas TV when you watch the TV you can see some visuals and you can attract to it, you feel something what is very good. Not used for new gadgets like remote control because you are not supposed to make use of any gadgets to operate radio. But whereas TV, you are supposed to have a remote and make use of new gadgetry. And so technologically, now the TVs are very technologically progressive these days. That is what the very first, section of, your book, I mean, rating for media and radio and television. You can see how, things, I mean, radio and TV are competing, one and the other. Even TV is also very much, taking progressive, thing. Even radio, whereas people are people are using radios because even as a teacher, in a class, I would recommend my student to listen to, I mean, news on radios because if at all you want to improve some, English and communication, you're supposed to understand how people, how the man who speaks on the radio, reads the news out. You should listen to him. You should follow him, whereby you can understand what is what exactly the communication. Even I, as a teacher, I would tell them, that is what, and your what is that? And also you can see how the radio has got the mass, unrestrictable listening entertainment programs should be of good taste without any communal, casteist, and chauvinist bias. That is what I speak about. I would like to speak about how radio is going to be very not chauvinistic. I mean biased and casteist remarks. They never make it and communal. It would be like very good taste because you never listen to radio if radio is not broadcasting, good programs on radio. People never listen to it. That is what radio is like that. And also these days, for advertisements, commercials are geared to advertising the products by different commercial organizations. The radio, the transmitter, transistor is being used, and also only it is not like only entertainment program. Often advertisement jingles and slogans include into the entertainment program. That is what these days we all know that how FM is making a point. I mean FM because we have 3 to 4 stations in Mysore in my place because we often we happen to hear some advertisements from radio and FM, then we call them because it would help us because this is how we can go, this is how we can get the things done. This is what the radio is going to be helpful for the, I mean, people, I mean, who are there are many people who are addicted to radio also these days because my own uncle who is very much addicted to radio than TV because he never watches TV, but he always holds the transistor at his ear. I mean, at his ear, he would always listen to it because he likes it because he is very much passionate about radio. And also, on educational programs, instructions radio programs, you can also say that how Yuvavani is being telecasted, how educational programs are being telecasted, how students are benefited because in my area, because for an instance, in my area, for the people who are appearing for SSLC exam means 10th exam, 10 exam, 10th exams, they are really, they're really waiting the thing. They are really waiting the I mean, what is the program? They listen to it and they make the points. They, prepare for the exam. That is how the radio is very useful for even the students, like a academic program. That is what. And then, uh, well, because while rating radio, one must have an understanding of the sound value of letters. You should know the sound value of letters and words and sentences, and carefully the sentence structure is to be framed, avoiding long sentences. If at all you are writing a script for the radio, if you are writing something, which is to be telecasted, which is supposed to be given to the one who is, who is going to give it as a transmission, as a communicative, like, that is what is you must be knowing how, the sentence, the long sentence are supposed to be, cut short, and how we can make it, how he is going to read the sentence out to the man, to the listener. It should be very much, easy, and also that is what, avoiding long sentences and multi-syllable words. There should not be multi-syllable words and unfamiliar directions, and the rigid time frame of a radio broadcast calls for a precise and comprehensive scripting, because a comprehensive script, is required. A comprehensive script is required because there are many characteristics, features. One is supposed to follow, and when you're writing the script, that I will, speak to you here. And also in the first, unit, there are keywords is, which is, given in the first, unit of it here. Keywords like adaptation, how making literary work a play, novel, or a poem suitable for another medium like radio, TV, or film. That is what adaptation. When you are working for radio, when you are, an employee of radio, you're supposed to know what to be adopted. And should I adopt a play or a novel or a poem suitable for another medium like radio, TV, film, which is the best, medium, the better medium to telecast it, to transmit it, and angle a specific approach you are supposed to have it. And audio means you're relating to ear only and opposed to both hearing and seeing the other. Then bulletin and channel, chunk, a specific period of time at which radio and TV program goes on the air. Chunk means colloquialities. And cue, dispatch, documentary, and then dubbing, editing, flash, FM band. FM band, a noise-free, often, stereophonic frequency channel in modern radio station. FM meaning frequency modulation. FM means frequency modulation. Gharana. Gharana says it's a program because style of rendering Indian classical music named after and originating in a particular place where it has been cultivated by eminent experts, and the hardware headlines highlights in a news bulletin. Air All India Radio describes them as a main points, and then input, listener, live broadcast, medium media, megawatt, kilowatt, microphone, and there are many keywords which are, mentioned here in the first part of the, chapter. I mean, the very lesson. I mean, radio and its potential and introduction. In an introduction part, you could make out as a student of this course, you're supposed to read all such things. So, what is Prasar Bharati? What is POP? Colloquial abbreviation of popular, pop music, meaning light, and Western songs. And Prasar Bharati is also is mentioned here, the proposed public corporation under which air and Doordarshan are to be brought. And radio, recall, script. What is script? In the sense a written matter for broadcast. And slot, slug, software, sound effect, stereo, text, transistor, small electronic semiconductor device used in radio sets instead of thermionic valves. Then transmitter, technology, video, voice over. Voice over in the sense voice added to a tape and to illustrate an image or a sound on a broadcast medium. So these are the, keywords you, as a student of this course, you are supposed to understand. You are supposed to get into it. You are supposed to, make it a point, and you should go with, by learning all such, keywords. You are supposed to go ahead with all such things. That is what the first part speaks about. So if you have any doubts in the first block, I mean, first unit, I could also make it a point radio as a medium of mass communication, because we all know that radio is a wonderful medium of mass communication, because it would reach. It would go in an external news bulletin of air within an hour, because that is what I'm telling you. Within an hour, it is going to telecast it. And the mass communication surfacing as an American concept in the early 60s in the writings of Wilbur, Scrum, and the other media experts, as in 3 decades since revolutionized impersonal communication and its technology before the term became popular. That is what it would go to an external news bulletin. I mean, in about 5 hours, the news gets across the country through its first home news at 6 hours Hindi and 0605 hours English. When our home news bulletin will be introduced after midnight. That is what another characteristic feature of radio as a medium of mass communication. The very another characteristics of a radio as a mass communication is its ubiquity. Ubiquity means which represents everywhere, because ubiquitous in the sense the man who presents everywhere, which is called ubiquitous, because the radio is its ubiquity. Receiving sets owned and used by people in India now number 900 lakhs as against 185 lakhs, that's TV sets. Because in India, 185 lakhs TV sets, we have got. But whereas 900 lakhs transistors are being used by the people in the peak hours from 1800 and 20 hours, over 50 lakh people are listening to one or the another broadcast from all India radio, from Delhi or from a regional station. That is what radio as a medium of mass communications. I mean, that is what stereophonic recording and frequency modulation and sound and waves. That is what newer technology and circuitry have also improved radio listening to a greatest extent in recent years, because newer technology and circuitry have always improved radio listening in Atmo, because radio listening to great extent in recent years. That is what. And we see transistors on a peddler's push shot on a footpath where the vegetable vendors and popular stack of their wares for sale, because you could also spot it out how people of were selling the products on streets. Vendors, I mean vendors. I mean even carried while walking one's way to one from the office. They used to carry the transistor. They used to listen to that. That is the very scope of the significance of radio. I mean, then after that, I mean, characteristics of the radio medium, as we know, radio and the print media, radio meter bands, radio software. You should all know all such things, because radio is also transmitting entertainment, information. Is it information? It is that transmitting the information, commercials, advertisement, instruction, education, and public service announcement. Anything because the government of Karnataka, government of India, and government of Africa, anything you're supposed to get, you're supposed to be broadcasted. You're supposed to be transmitted. So through radio, because you can transmit. That is what radio is at it. That is what radio is for entertainment, and radio is for information. Commercials through All India Radio, commercial advertising was started on November 1st, 1967, to boost the avenues of the organization by promoting goods and services in the private sectors, because the private sectors people are also started using radio for their commercial advertisements. And instruction and education, where a listening farmer can be instructed, for example, about how to handle new agriculture tool. A farmer can also be educated through the radio programs. How a farmer can know to handle a new agriculture tool, but he needs to be educated about pest control. Wisdom about mechanization of agriculture grows slowly after years of introspection analysis. How even radio is helping, how farmers are being educated through radio. How the radio is going to educate them, handling the tools of agricultural tools, and avoiding pests, I mean, making them wise, and information, instruction, education, wisdom, and elevation. So that is what predominantly verbal, because radio programming about its instruction, because it's a predominantly verbal, although sound effects can be employed imaginary, because I think we must be must be listening. You must have had an experience of being listened to the radio program, how the radio when you are giving some information over a radio, how the sound, the background sounds are being used very mildly, because the speech would be more higher than the background sounds. That is the thing is about. Then complex lesson, they have also be simple in structure, and public service announcement, because utility announcements are increasing over radio as a society becomes more complex, and listeners crave for various kinds of information. Because even as a teacher, as a professor, because I've seen many, because many of what we say, because yesterday there was a news, because it was aired on radio. How that news was aired on radio, in the sense, because you can pay all your what is that, because in Mysore we have violated the rules and regulations of what we say that police rules. Because in my place, that's what the government has announced, 50% off. You can also come and pay whatever the violations you have made all these days. You can pay 50% off the violation fees. Then people were rushing in, because why? Because this news was very much telecasted, was aired on the radio. This is what public service announcement. This is how how public were benefited. Even how the hospitals are being opened. How the very good hospitals are recently opened in cities. This is what the public service announcement. How corporation people, government corporation, how they want to create some sanitization, the message, how they're going to educate. It is all done via radio. That is what radio is for, public service announcement. And you should also know production techniques. I mean, production techniques, I think, writing for well, rating the when you're writing for the radio, broadcasting demands on the writer, because when you're broadcasting, the writer is supposed to think about it. So because when you're writing a script for the radio, there are certain demands. A writer should bear it in mind. As a writer should keep them in mind. Amongst to think on the subject and digest the material in all its aspects before putting it down in writing. That is what a script writer, a writer for a script for the radio, he has to think on the subject and digest the material in all its aspects, because you should have the some common sense how things should be put it across, put it in, like. And before putting it down in writing, before writing it down, he is supposed to think on the subject and digest the material. You should also think the possibilities all around. Then the second point is, imagine your potential listeners, so whom you are going to listen to this, because the script you are writing, so which should be listened to the listeners, the whom, the listeners, who are the listeners who are going to listen to the script, and you should know, imagine your potential listeners, because the active listeners you must be, you must have the thing concept. Then to be sitting next to you in real life and write as you would speak to them, as if they were listening to you in actual life. That is what you should have the idea, how the listeners, the actual listeners, are going to listen to you as if they're in a real life sequence. I mean actions, and write as you would speak to them, because you are speaking to them. Because when you're writing, you should imagine, you should assume yourself as if you are speaking to the someone who is sitting next to you. In that way, similarly, you're supposed to put it across. They're listening to you in actual life. Avoid difficult words, because the very thing which you are writing for the active listeners, because you cannot expect all the listeners who are very much educated, who are going to listen to you. Because even the people who do not who is not educated, who is not literate, that man also is going to listen to your news. That is what you're supposed to make it very simple. I mean, you are not supposed to make use of difficult words in your script. If you have to present complex ideas, explain them in the simplest forms before repeating. Because even if you have a complex idea, but when you are writing it, you have to make the complexity and complex idea is into simplest terms, and before repeating them. Maintain a rigid time frame, because time should be very much precautious here. Time, you are supposed to maintain the time and adjust your writing to the slot given to you. Because if you are supposed to write for the 15 minutes for the program, 15 minutes program, You're supposed to curtail your ideas. You're supposed to write the very script for which within which you're supposed to write within 15 minutes. Like that is what. Then adjust your writing to the mood of the day because you should know because the mood because when you are writing the time and the season because you should have the not like idea you should have the concept you should have the consciousness of what is the time right time to tap it on and what is the season because where people are really craved for and what is the people mood could be like that is what for example if you are doing a talk on sports in the peak evening hours make it interesting conversation jovial to appeal to the widest section of users because if at all you want to write a script for these sports if it is scheduled in the evening so you could expect more and more listeners because when you are if it is telecasted in the afternoon because people would be very busy in their work they would not be available in their homes in their leisurely at the leisure time to listen to you that is what you as a script writer you're supposed to keep all such things because time rigidity and adjust your writing the mood of the day and time and the season everything and avoid difficult words and then maintain I mean like imagine your potential listener you should know who are the actual listeners for my script that I'm writing now that is what you're supposed to make it a point so then good and bad rating is also there. So you should always think about how a good writing can also reach the listeners. This is what you should think about it. And and radio scripting. I'll speak about radio script. I'll speak about radio script. I mean when you're talking about radio, you should also have the concepts of sound effects, music interludes, then background music, careful dialogues that will reveal the location, sometimes personality of the characters and conflict of the play are some of the techniques involved in radio production. When you are producing a play on radio, you're supposed to, as a musician, you're supposed to know what sound effects I can make use at this point. And music interludes what music should come when it is pathos, when it is happiness, when it is somewhat like very conflict wherein you are supposed to which music should be played and background of music how that the music should be played very mildly, not not more than the the words the man who's speaking. The careful dialogues when you are speaking the dialogue, which is very audible, and which should be because you are not visualizing, you're not seeing the very man who is speaking on the radio. You are supposed to have the concept when you are listening to the very dialogues of him you should have the imagination how the actor would be must be and might be delivering the dialogue that should come to the mind of the listeners that is what the sound production that is was the first unit the second unit is all about types of programs and what are the radio programs and all and before which I would also speak some because for river thing how to write scripts because I was now I'm speaking about how to script the like radio. This is where I have few points here, key points. Uh, when you are doing just a minute, sir. I'll take my own thing. 41 to 42 to 43 to 44 to 45 46. Ah, so again, in continuation of script writing, I would have some more points. Script writing for radio television. So writing scripts will take you to your show, but developing loyal listeners make it worth it because you should have the mind as a listener, as a student of this course, as a student of this course, my dear, you're supposed to, while writing a script, will take you for your show, but developing loyal listeners make it worth it. That's what. Think of your script as a way of what you hear and see in your imaginations. When you are writing a script, you should have a what you should know how what you hear and see in your imagination. That is what. When you are writing, you are supposed to follow certain principles. I mean, basic principles when you are scripting, when you are writing a script When you're writing a script for radio, even radio, even TV also, televisions, you are supposed to maintain the things because language, grammar, and punctuation. Because a script writer knowledge should have the knowledge of what language, grammar, and functions. That is what there is a big difference between radio and print television stories. I just told you earlier how the TV is competing with the radio. So since we cannot go back over like a newspaper, we don't have the visual images TV. A radio journalist can understand the story for the first time it is read. So there are basic principles here. The principles are like write as you speak. The first principle when you are writing a script for the radio, write as you speak. So because it is like when you are speaking, when you are hosting the program, when you are transmitting when you are hosting the program, the reader should speak as it is. The reader is speaking like as it is. Even the way it is written, you are supposed to make it the right as you speak. In simple sentences, you should write. Formal grammar and syntax are inappropriate for the conversation style of radio announcing because you cannot maintain the syntax because you are not reading. Because when you are reading, it will be a verbal. People, would definitely get. We will never reach. That program will never reach to the audience. Why? Because people start feeling this is what something artificial. This program is not much to the extent because see how this man is reading with all formal setting of it. That is what you should not maintain the syntactical pattern for conversation because it should be like conversation style of radio announcing. Avoid highly specialized terms. Highly specialized terms in the sense unless they are explained because if you are told it is must, it is mandatorily be used, you are supposed to explain it again because you should make the people understand. See, for an example, allochthonous population of Brazil is gradually outnumbering the autochthonous inhabitants. Instead of making the sentence which is very highly thing, so you can make it very simple like there are more and more people from different ethnic backgrounds in Brazil. See, I'll tell you once again, the allochthonous population of Brazil is gradually outnumbering the autochthonous inhabitants because people never understand the very word of it because even I am feeling very difficult to pronounce it with the very word because allochthonous and autochthonous, the both are like different ethnic backgrounds. The name of the ethnic background. Instead of making people confused, you read like there are more and more people from different ethnic backgrounds in Brazil. That could be a better because that is what I'm telling you as a script writer. You should follow certain things because write as you speak. Write as you speak. When you're writing, it is what the way you are conducting, holding the conversation with somebody else. That should be the and test your script as you write and test your script because you write, read and reread. That would be right. Don't just run your eyes over it because you're not supposed to flash it on your eyes, then or murmur under your breath. Read it aloud because if at all you want to write, I mean, when you're writing the script for it, you're supposed to read it loud, and you trip over a word or phrase and it needs changing before showtime. This will make it much easier in you and you audience because when you are reading loudly, this could be very much very much easier for the listener to understand it, what is what the news is being read out, with what intention the news, the thing is being read out, I mean loudly read out. That is what the test your script as you write. Once you test it, because before giving to the thing, you're supposed to practice it. And the third point is, for the first point is write as you speak. The second point is test your script as you write. The third point is use precise, clear language. Precise means it should be very clear, like what, and clear language. The text should unfold in a logical manner and be easier to follow by ear. If you not if you are not sure about it, sentence or paragraph, read it out to somebody and see whether they understand. Because so before giving it to the news reader, I mean somebody who is making it a point, You should, as a script reader, you should read to somebody else. You should see the reactions, whether the reaction was, positive, whether the reaction was negative. Then knowing that, you should, plan it out. That is what, use precise and clear language. That is what the other day. But for example, I'll tell you one example for it. Ready? The other day, the police confirmed the suspicion of the family of racial motives in the well-known case of the murder of the old woman. So that is the thing, is use precise and clear language and make it, the long sentences should be chunked out. You're supposed to cut it out and make it a point how you can make the people understand how with your reading, by your reading. Ready? The other day, the police confirmed the suspicion of the family of racial motives in the well-known case of the murder of the old woman. This is what a reader should read, and their news is going to or be listened to the this is going to be listened by the listener, right? For one listener, because it is not like you are not writing the script for the mass. You're writing the script for an individual. The individual is a mass here. The individual, the one is a mass, because if at all I'm a script writer, I'm writing the script, keeping somebody in my mind, because if that man is listened and understood properly, it would be understandable. Then it would be reached to everybody else. That is what you should have it. Write and deliver your words as though you are speaking to one person. I repeat it again, my dear students. Write and deliver, write and deliver your words as though you are speaking to one person, not a crowd. Don't think that you're writing for the crowd, because your words should not get missed out. Your words should not get lost amongst the people, because you are going to reach each and individual, because the individual is the mass for the radio script writer. Treat your listeners as an individual and you will build a loyal audience. That is what you should. I'll repeat it again. Treat your listener as an individual and you will build a loyal audience. That is what. For an example, I'll give you an example for it. As you all surely know, March 21 is the International Day Against Racial Discrimination. So, if any of you people are interested, you can attend free training course at our radio on that day. This is what the sentences. When you are writing these sentences, it would be a very much problematic, because see this the modified sentence. As a script writer, you should have the common sense how you are going to write the script for an individual. I mean, I told you like write for one listener. See, March 21st is the International Day Against Racial Discrimination. If you are interested in attending a free training course, come to the radio station on that day. See how the things are going to be speaking to each and individual here. So see the other one, as you all surely know, because what is this? You are speaking to everybody, the whole mass, as you all know. As you means you are not speaking, you are not concentrating on an individual. You are speaking like the whole mass. So the radio, when you are writing the script for the radio, a script writer should have a mind like you are writing this script to reach an individual, not the mass. That is what, and I have quoted the example. And write news thoughtfully, because when you are writing the news, it should be very thoughtful. News or documentary material should be delivered slowly, because when you are because that should be very much it, because it has the important and very significant. That is what, when you are delivering the news or documentaries, it should be done slowly and in small chunk. News is information heavy and more difficult to digest. Give a listener time to chew it over, because you should give a listeners to chew it over, because they should understand it, they should think of it, and they should further go ahead to listen to the news. You are not supposed to make it hurry, and you are not supposed to give it a news at at one stretch. That should not be the case. Like that is what, think news thoughtfully and think for the listener, and rather than yourself, assess your script from the position of the listener, because you think empathetically, because you are not supposed to think as I'm writing, people should listen to me. This should not be the case. The case is you are supposed to stand in the listener's place empathetically. You should understand what the intensity, what the understandability, how this news is going to be helpful and worthful. This is what you are supposed to think about it. Then avoid abstractions. Show, don't tell. Be concrete and talk in pictures and images. It may sound funny, but radio can be very visual medium. You have to give listeners something to look at with their imagination instead of their eyes. That is what it might not be like, may not be like, the visible, thing, but even through your, speech, through your, reading the news of it, the reading the information to the listeners, you can make the people, have the imagination. You can think of it. Oh, this could be the case. The man who is reading supplementary, I mean, side by side, you could a reader, a listener could, imagine it. That is what. And don't overload, because you are not supposed to overload the information on the listeners. Like your text with too much information, it should not be, because it should be very simple. And anybody can, chew it, anybody can understand, even layman, because our, motto is of what, reaching the news to a layman, the man who is not literate, who doesn't know how to read and how to write, who listens to it, because he is able to listen to it, capable enough to listen to it, to understand it, with his experience, with his own experiences. That is what, because you are not supposed to overload your text with too much of information. You should not give it. For example, I'll get you an example for don't overload. See, between February and June 2000, there was 21.53% increase in the deportation rate. From July until September, this escalated to 34.6 uh, states, the recently published report by. So instead of, reading, giving that information in a long sentences, so you could, cut short. You could make it very simpler, a simple way, like the recently published report by, that is for 21.53, and then 34.6 reveals out a drastic increase of over 30% in the deportation rate in the year 2000. So that is what you are supposed to think, uh, on and on. As a script writer, you are supposed to think on and on. When you are sitting for writing the script, you should have how to how you are not to overload the text with the too much of information on the listener. You should have the idea of it. Then simplify the round numbers. I mean, say nearly 16 million instead of 15,000, 15 lakhs, 870,000, 222. Saying that in place of it, you could say nearly 15 million. That is what simplify round numbers, and avoid repetitions. Avoid repetition means overused words and tongue twisters. Not required, because you're not there to make the people, people should know my, caliber. I'm so, thing, I'm very educated. So people should, prize me. People should prize me. Not in that way, because you're there to read the news to each and every individual listeners. That is what you are, supposed to do. That is what you avoid repetition and expand and elaborate. Sometimes may not immediately have been conveyed. For instance, don't assume if everyone knows who Fidel Castro is, because Fidel Castro, people may not know him, because don't think that, hey, who don't know, because people should know, Fidel Castro, who is Fidel Castro is about. This cannot be, thought like that, because you should have the idea. People, there are many people, there are many people, they do not know who is Fidel Castro. That should be your case, because you should not have the idea of, everybody knows. Why do I give, much and more information on Fidel Castro? That should not be the case. Whenever you're introducing, though you are knowing very much about him, because many of the people who are knowing about him, because it is your due duty to give much and more information, even a kind of information to the listeners. That is the thing. That is the, presentation thing about. And no abbreviations. Abbreviations are not supposed to make use of it. If at all you want to make use of, abbreviations, you should tell the, what the, word stands about. Example, I'll tell you an example. The word Association of Community Radio Broadcasters, better known by the French acronym. Instead of instead of the World Association of Community Radio Broadcasters, better known by the French acronym AMRC, that is Association Mondiale des Radio Diffusion Communautaires. This is the French word. You should make use of this word. I mean, use brackets and quotation marks as little as possible, because they are not audible. Because as a reader of the script, You should know where I'm supposed to put the full stop, where I'm supposed to make it a point. As an important line, I should give more emphasis while reading it. That is what the reader should know it. For example, the mention of color, see, because color, for color, I given you the single quote here. The mention of color is not necessary in most crime stories, but this within bracket, nearly always ignored by even the most progressive newspaper. That is what. But when you are reading, you should have the idea because the chairman said it is a crying shame, or the chairman said, quote, it is a crying shame, unquote. Yes, the chairman said it was a crying shame. Instead of making all such sentences, you can make it a point like the chairman said it was a crying shame. That is what a script writer should have all the concepts. Huh? Even when you are as a script writer, adjectives and personal values should be avoided in news writing because adjectives, you're not there to praise somebody else, and it is not like a biased, you are not supposed to get biased by any individual because he is my cousin, he is my friend, I know him personally. That is what let me give him some boost. I mean, boosting his personality, which is not there actually with him. That you are not supposed to do it. Adjectives and personal values should be avoided in news writing. If you want to give your opinion, do it through a personality you quote. Because if at all you want to give some information about him, see, the mayor's remarks on the new legislation are a setback to local efforts. Instead, it's a sentence. It's a sentence. So instead of this sentence, as a script writer, the citizens see here, the citizens collective of Leon condemned the mayor's remarks on the new legislation, describing them as a setback to local efforts. This is see the difference between two sentences. The first sentence is how indicates that the mayor's remarks on the new legislation are set back to local effort. Who is the mayor? What's his name? Instead of the listener should not have the confusion. That is what the citizens collective of Lyon condemned the mayor's remarks on the new legislation, describing them as a setback to local effort. This should be the writing for a script writer, and avoid using pronouns such as he, her, they. You should avoid such and such pronouns, and the writer knows who they are referring to. The writer knows referring to, and but this may not be so clear for the listener. It is better to repeat than assume. That is what you should avoid as a script writer. You should avoid the pronouns. I mean, as he, her, they. The writer knows who they are referring to. The writer ಯಾರು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ because he should know whom he is referring to. But this may not be so clear for the listener. This would not be the very clear to the listener. It is better to repeat than as it because you should repeat it again. That is what avoid list because when you are telling the list of it, the listeners would lose the interest. That is what avoid reading the list of it and write short sentences using the active voice because make use of only active voice than passive voice. So don't make use of passive voices in your script writing. I'll give you an example. See, the world's fastest growing criminal business is considered to be people trafficking. Instead of making, what is that, passive voice, you should make it active voice when you are writing a script. People trafficking is the world's fastest growing criminal business. Shall I repeat it again? I'll repeat it again for you because for your understanding, for your clear understanding, the world's fastest growing criminal business is considered to be people traffic and passive voice. So I'm telling you, as a script writer, you're supposed to avoid the passive voice in your writing. See, people trafficking is the world's fastest growing criminal business. This should be the clear and direct. Even the listeners would understand. The listener would catch the very phrase of sentence of it. That is what and punctuate to suit your own reading style because when you are reading the very script which is given to you, you should know where to punctuate, where to give comma, where to give more emphasis, and where you are supposed to give like importance to be importance to be the sentences or the importance the sentences are. That is what as a reader you should know that. Uh, that is what punctuate. I'll give you an example for it because punctuate to suit your own reading style. See, as a reader, because I assume that I'm a reader, I'm reading you a piece of information. I'm giving a piece of information. See, children learn to build musical instruments using scrap material like toilet paper rolls or popcorn seeds. Shall I read it again? Children learn to build musical instruments using scrap material like toilet paper rolls or popcorn seeds. So the other sentence you can make an observation of the other sentence. How this sentence is going to be very presentable. Children learn to build musical instruments using scrap material like toilet paper rolls or popcorn seeds. See, you can have the difference between two sentences. How the first sentence was, read it like children learn to build musical instruments using scrap material like toilet paper, rolls, or popcorn seeds. There are no punctuated marks because you read it straight away. You're not you made use of any punctuation mark. You're not given any pause, pause to stop, because you should give the breathe space, breathing time. You should give a breathing time for the listener to think it, to chew it. That is what, when you are reading the very script, you are supposed to follow in the sense punctuation. So punctuation means children learn to build musical instruments using scrap material. Punctuated, comma is used here, like toilet paper rolls or popcorn seeds, because we have used full stop here at the end of the sentence, and also the sentence is marked with double quotes. Double quotes. This is what the thing is. Then titles go before names, because when you are writing a script, my dear students, titles go before names, because if you are student, I would call him Mr. something like. If you are a doctor, doctor, not like like Minister of Labor, Marion Joe Saprani, musician, dancer, actor,
Sir,
act,
sorry, the slides are not moving. The students are putting in the chat box, sir.
ಹೌದಾ?
ಹಾ
ಅದು ಆಯ್ತು ಮೇಡಮ್, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡೂ ದ್ಯಾಟ್.
ಅದು ಆರೋ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಹಾ ಹಾಗೆ ನಾವು ಓಕೆ ಈಗ ಬರ್ತಿದೆ
Uh,
ಸರ್ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
that is what, when you are writing, because when you are writing script writing for radio, you are supposed to make use of active voice, and you are supposed to make use of the punctuate to suit your own reading style. That's what I gave you some examples, for which those sentences I read it out. So how the punctuation was supposed to be used in order to make the listeners to give them a breathing space, and they should chew it, they should understand it. That is what. Children learn to build musical instruments using scrap material. I have used your comma like toilet paper rolls of popcorn seeds. I mean, I used full stop here and then double quotes. That is what. And also, I told you that titles go before names, because whenever you are writing the script, you are supposed to make use of the titles first. Next name. That is for Doctor Parshuram, Doctor somebody else you are calling, actor. No, not like the you are using the name and calling the is an actor, something not like actor, something you have to make use of. You have to make use of. That is what. This is how as a script writer, you are supposed to make use of it, because such things are not in the slides, because I have prepared some notes for because which are not there in the even book, because I was thinking when you are getting ready for the thing. So let me give you some information about how to write the script, because it is there in the book. A bit it is given. Even I have done some comprehensively how I could make the people, how I could make my students to make understand this with this. That is what. Even I would get you some more examples about how key principles for radio script writing, because you're supposed to know what are the key principles for radio script writing. Uh, as I told you in the beginning, it should be like spoken like. We should be natural and use the words the meaning, because it should be quite natural. It should not be like much and more complex word. You should use it. You should make use of your in your speech like. You should be very natural and use the words the meaning like. Then like you are not supposed to make use something like contraceptive words like don't, can't, won't. You're not to make use of such and such words in your when you are reading the information, when you're giving the information. You're supposed to read the full of it, because do not, is not, are not, cannot. That is what, like do not, that is, even that's fine. You said it is not the thing, because when you are reading the news, you're supposed to make use of full of it, because that is they are, wouldn't, not like wouldn't, would not, is not, something like etc. Because may not be like mayn't be, Aren't I? Aren't you? Something you're not supposed to, read it like. That is what, as a script writer, as a script reader of it, when you are, when you want to reach that, the script which is given to you, when you're reading the very script, you're supposed to, when you're reading it out, you should know how to make use of all such things. Then it is immediate because broadcast scripts are considered to be written in immediate format. Immediate format is information considered immediate because sometimes information comes, you're supposed to read it out because it's information. Now medium. Broadcast is a now medium. Now means in present. Now means NOW is a present medium. But print we can publish even history or something which is not immediate because you can, in papers you can present it, you can publish it the very past and present and future. But whereas in the radio, it's a now immediate medium, something like. So, for example, like, don't write like, the chief executive said the country's economy was booming. I'll read it again. The chief executive said today the country's economy was booming. Instead, write the chief executive says the country's economy is booming. So that is how you should have the plan. You have to plan it out because when you are writing the script for the radio, you should know, right? Not like, the chief executive said today the country's economy was booming. Even because it was, said it in the past tense. When you are not supposed to speak it in the past tense or future tense, you are supposed to speak it in the present tense. Because when you are reading the news, when you are giving the piece of information, anything for that matter of fact, you're supposed to read it. You're supposed to make use of, present tense. Getting my point, my dear students, the chief executive says, the chief executive said. Then the other sentence, I'm giving an instance like, the chief executive said, not like said, you're not supposed to use. You are supposed to use like the executive says, present tense should be used here. That is what, as I told you, the key principles of, script writing, it is person to person. Person to person, it must be a like informal, not like very formal. You are not, executives like. You are supposed to speak, as if because you're giving the information to everybody. I mean, not like you are giving only the doctors. You're not giving the engineers and lecturers. You're giving the very information to everybody. Whoever listens to radio, that is what uh, you should have the concept like you and me medium, you and me medium. Getting my point, my dear students? You and me medium because person to person. Because when you are writing the script, a script writer and a script reader both should follow that. Both should have the idea of what you and me medium. Because you and me, because I'm reading, you are listening to me. That is what. It means that you write a script for the transmitted through radio and television. You're supposed to deliver the script in person to person format because you should have the format as a script writer. So how you are going to give it to that. So that is what. Then it's a heard ones in the sense dialogue spoken or heard once and then they cannot be referred back because once you said you cannot take it back the word. That is what the heard ones in the sense. Once you speak it out, that word cannot be taken back because as a reader, as a script writer, even as well, you are supposed to make it a point how you are supposed to write the script. When you are said it, you cannot take the back. That is what you are supposed to be very careful, very careful. That is what in BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, how people are very much precise, how people are very accurate in their speech, in their communications, their accent, at their accents. That is what a reader should have the good accent and should have the good common sense, should have the some manage the things when things are being demanded, when things are being demanded to the reader, you should have the thing. How you could manage without making any fuss, without making any confusion to the listeners. That is what it is sound and picture because sometimes to the sound in case of radio because our script is very much on radio and sound picture in case of television what's a bridge between you and the audience because the one who is reading or you and the bridge because it is going to bridge between you and the thing. Then writing radio script, uh, there is an example here because even format is given in the book, book also. This one, how something you are when you are writing the things. I'll read it once because keep some such few points. How to write the script. First point you are supposed to keep it setting. Where? when, where that's the set should be set, and when, when it should be set, like at least the main characters. Who are the main characters? Who is the main characters here? Who is supposed to play this role? And who is the thing here? Then conflict or problem, then the characters must resolve, because a conflict is there, because any news, any script writing, there should be a conflict. It must be there must be a conflict. So how which character is going to resolve the conflict and the resolution of the conflict? What is the resolution? How? What is that? That is the thing. Then what is the setting like, and where is the setting? Specify the date and time. What are the characters in the scene? What information does the scene communicate to the audience? Identify the point, story, conflict, identify the point of climax, resolution. Within a given time, you are supposed to finish the very program. You should have all such ideas, and you should have the script layout. Script layout in the sense, prepare your material so that the path between your eyes, brain, and mouth remains clear. For instance, write hard to pronounce words phonetically. Sometimes you cannot speak it out. You cannot pronounce it word, because there are if it is in English, Daniel Jones. We have got books like Daniel Jones, where you can see how the words and names can be pronounced. With the transcriptions of words, the transcriptions of words, we can do that. In Kannada also, in my mother tongue, we can make use of practicing on and on the particular, because when it is it is hard to pronounce, you're supposed to practice it again. Write names and figures in full, because I told you already, don't, isn't, aren't, you're not supposed to make use it. Write your names also, like Johnny, something like. You should write the full John Biden, something Narendra Modi, Narendra Damodar Modi, Narendra Modi, something. You should tell the full name. Use an easy to read font in large size, because when you're reading it, use an easy to read font in large size. Should make the font large sized, because it should be readable like. And double space all copy for easy reading. You should keep the double space, because the sentences are written which are not supposed to be messed with the another sentence, because there should be double space. Type on one side the other page only, one day page, something you are not supposed to write the second page, because when you are reading the news, you should take the one page to the other side. You should take the another page. You should turn the third page, something like should be like. You are not supposed to turn the page, the same page you're not supposed to turn, because it would be a very difficult, it would be a very mess for the reader. And then use the inch margins, and exaggerate where the paragraph begins by spacing. Exaggerate. Mark your copy to guide your delivery. Marking copy is important to ensure easy reading. If you want to word emphasize, underline it. If at all you want to make the point emphasized and give it more focus on it, you underline the word, and put slash marks after the sentences where passes are required. If at all you want to give some passes to give some breathe space to the listener, you have to make use of the slash. That is what a script writer should make use of, all such things when you are doing such things. So uh, the basic, something. I'll give you some more. I told you everything. A few more points. Something like best practices for script writing. Best practices, because when you are writing best practices, uh, this is what I think I did not move any slides here. This is the script note, writing down the movement. What is script writing? Something before I explained everything about script writing, because I forgot to explain you what is script writing. The script writing is, you can see the line, very slide of it here. Writing down the movement, actions, expression, and dialogue of the characters in screenplay, and with screenplay format. That is for script writing. Shall I read it again? Writing down the movement, actions, expression, and dialogue of the characters in screenplay, and with screenplay format is called script writing. So basic of script writing is characters, characters, settings, and conflict. So character, setting, and conflict. I would tell you, where is that from? Ah, characters. This is the second point is here. Uh, Characters means start simple. The character should be very start simple. Fill up a page writing each one story, favorite praises, fears if there is any fears, loves and desires. This is what the script writers plan should be like. Then get to know them a little, because you should know what the thing is about. Characters, settings wise, characters will dictate the time and place. Characters will dictate the time and place, setting, because the very characters who are playing the role will dictate what is time and what should be the place like. Don't spend much time about this setting, because it's radio, my dear students. It is radio. You're not supposed to spend much and more time about the settings, because settings is not the thing, because people never see that what is the setting is all about. Because when it comes to the setting, you are not supposed to spend much and more time about the setting. That is what conflict is. Vital component of drama and script writing, because the problem, the thing which is very much aggravating, that is the thing is about the basics of script writing. The best practices of script writing is what? Best practices what? Chunking. What is chunking? Chunking, any idea from your side? Chunking in the sense, I'll tell you what is chunking is. It's a process by which individual pieces of an information, because there is much information about it. Because as a script writer, you should know how to chunk it, how to cut it short, how to make it, pieces, how to fragment it into pieces like individual pieces of an information set are broken down and then grouped together. Again, you are grouping together the chunk by which the information is grouped. It is meant to improve short-term retention of the material, because you are going to retain release the material, something like that, chunking. The second point is, as I told you, using simple language, because language that is clear and easy to understand. Because, my dear students, you are pursuing this course, you should have the knowledge, because you are there to make people understand, not to confuse. That is what you as possible as as right. uh, Something you have to, you make use of simple language. uh, and timing also, timing in the sense, it's clear and understand with no ambiguity and unnecessarily difficult. No ambiguity, you should not create any ambiguity like. And timing is what? Is the skill or action of judging the right movement in a situation or activity at which to do something. Because as a reader of it, you should have the concept of within which I should complete it. Within which, because if you are feeling like the time is getting short, cutting the time is cutting short, you should know how to manage it and how to finish it within the time, within the stipulated time. That's the time is very much constrained one in radio. That is what you cannot you're not there to spend the time, because as if you are free to execute something. You are not free to execute the thing. You are time bound. You are supposed to work under time bound. You're supposed to make it a point that within the time given. Like that is what best practices of script writing is what? Chunking, simple language, and timing. Then radio script. What is radio script? So when you are writing the radio script, you are supposed to keep it, ensure accuracy. What? Just a minute. Just a minute. Ensure accuracy of information. When you are writing a script for radio, ensure accuracy of information, because you should know, you cannot give the information as if even you should see the whether this information is worthwhile or not. If that sentence is not worthwhile, you are not supposed to give this information, because that's what you should see the accuracy and continuity. I mean, ensure the continuity of the program, and you should see how the program should be continued, and maximum is the airtime, because you should know how the airtime, how the time, the schedule you are going to telecast is. That is what the point is. The basic steps in radio script writing, because these are the points I would read it out. You just you can make it a point, something like get a good briefing, know your listener. I have already explained about this, all this. What is what I in the radio at the beginning of my thing, the meantime of my presentation. I told you what should be the listener. Get a good briefing and know your listener. You should know the listener. Do research about the topic. Unless you know the topic, unless you research the topic, you cannot give it as simply, because people are there to question it. People would raise the questions. So how come you are giving no of false information? You are there. You're not there to give the things. That is what you are supposed to be like that. And prepare content outline. When you are writing the script, you should have the outline of the content. So content, how the skeleton is there. You are going to fill the flesh. The skeleton is what the outline. The very skeleton of it, what kind of outline. Then content is the flesh. You are going to fill the content in the out in the skeleton. Write the first draft because it is must. It is must for a script writer. First draft should be framed done first, then second draft, third draft. Even if it is demanded, if it is expected to be written more and more corrected, you should write it. Unless until you are satisfied with it, until people, because the very who are there in the group in the group who give the what something yes says you could go ahead. So till then you are supposed to revise the drafts and read it aloud. I tell you, my dear students, you are supposed to read it loud, time the material, and material you should see the time limit, time the material. The material can it be read it out within the time within the given time. This is what you should practice it in the home. You should practice it in your before airing it, and visualize the script. You should have the visualizations about the script. If the script is aired, if the script is read it like this would be like this, and this could be the problem. This could be somewhat consequences of it. This is how you are supposed to think about it and review the script. You should review the script. I told you already. You should see how the script is going to be helpful, and it is whether this very thing is already telecasted, whether the script which is done on some subjects, whether it is telecasted or not. You should see all the review the script. You should review the script and revise for style, correct timing, and accuracy, because you should see the the style, the pattern of style. You should see how to be read, because sometimes we like we were very much interested to listen to some people who read it in the radio. Sometimes my friend is working on radio because he speaks very good. Because whenever I find time, because I would listen to him, because the way in which he reads it out, it's wonderful. Even I'm very much passionate about his voice. That is what are supposed to revise the style, because you should make the readers interesting. You should make the readers something like their understandability, their attention, to grab their attention with their voice, with the style, pattern of style, and correct timing, correct punch, and punctuations and intonations and accuracy, and even stress patterns. You're supposed to make use of it. That is what basic steps in radio script writing, and that is what you're supposed to make it a point. My dear students, these are the things you are supposed to follow for the basic radio steps writing. But again, in the second unit, it is there, like programs broadcast by All India Radio. So programs broadcast by All India Radio, uh, news bulletins. April 10th and 1930, it was started like news bulletins, and music programs, Air India, All India Radio. I mean, commercial broadcasts, current affairs weekly 30 minutes on Sundays especially. I mean, newsreel programs, plays and radio features and documentaries. So these are something like uh, the main types of programs by here. These are the main programs which are broadcasted by All India Radio. The first is News Bulletin, April 10 and 1930, and music programs and commercial broadcasts and current affairs. Current affairs in the sense, because there is a program in my place, because Tattanta Heli, because you may not be very familiar to the word which I told you, like Tattanta Heli, because you should answer within a minute. You should answer within a minute. That is the name of the program, because it is been telecasted, it's broadcast, because it's on TV actually. Because why I'm telling you, because if it is very much interesting, people never miss the very program. Even I watch from many years, many years even I watch, because people were very passionate about listening to the commentary of cricket, because there were no TVs those days. People were very much I mean, very much they were very much relying on only radios to listen to the commentaries, because the people Because even as an English teacher, I tell my students, if at all you want to improve English, listen to commentaries, cricket commentaries, and some commentaries of sports. If you listen to it, that to a radio, not the TV, because when you are watching the TV, you miss the listening capability. So when you are listening to the radio, because you are attentively listening to the very program of the radio, the thing, so you definitely are going to, you are improving unknowingly, unconsciously. I mean, consciously you're improving the communication, the accent. I mean, the very attention. That will be improved. That will be improved definitely. That is what. Excuse me. Sorry. Commercial broadcast even people like advertisement for their products to promote, and for to make the people sensitized, to make the sensitized advertisement, because because with all accents, styles of, I told you the pattern of styles, you can hear the advertisements, commercial broadcast on the radio, current affairs for the students who are appearing for the competitive examinations, which are really being telecasted on radio, and not telecasted, which are being aired on radio, newsreel programs and plays. Even I performed and play on radio with my friends long back. It is wonderful because it will be recorded within a time frame. They give some time. We should plan it out. If that drama is not within the within the time limit, you are supposed to enact again. That is the radio's problem. Is what you should. They give you a slot of time. You are supposed to finish it within the time limit. If you cannot do it, or else you are supposed to do it again, redo it again. That is what the thing is. But plays and radio features and documentaries, and many educative programs for the students. Yuvavani in 1969 in Delhi station, it was started. It was started in 1969 from Delhi station at Delhi station. The Yuvavani, because now the radio is being aired, spoken English classes, it is being being aired, transmitted. The radio is being transmitted, like spoken English classes, interviews. I mean, more and much and more about agricultural thing, agricultural areas. This is how people are. The radio is very much improved nowadays, because even it is competing. Even my old parents, my people who are old age people who never watch TV, who always were always with going with radios, transistors. So whenever I see them in parks and roads, everything, they used to hold a transistor. They would be listening to the story, and sometimes they would listen to some songs also, film songs and English film songs, something like it is very much improved, and no other the focus will never be deviated. Whereas in the radio, that is what. And then radio and education, and the radio is being telecasted like radio for children, radio for youth, radio for open learning, because you are all pursuing education through IGNO, Indira Gandhi National Open University, because in our place there are many universities which are offering open learning system. Because even IGNO, you are listening to me, because there's a platform from IGNO side, there's open learning access. That is what you listening to me. Even radio, because Jnana only something, there is a program from IGNO. That is a radio for open learning. You can listen to the radio, you can understand it. Radio for adult literacy, because people who are not literate, because they would get educated. Sometimes they help everybody, even people who have done some achievements in some field. They would be interviewed. People would know them. What the achievement? They would get inspired. That is the radio, because I should salute the radio. The very thing is about. The main aims of radio broadcast are, the main aims of radio broadcast, what is that? Entertainment, information, and education. Any other thing? No, I don't feel like any other information radio is going to give the listeners. The main focus, the main aims of radio broadcast are entertainment, because we listen to songs, we listen to plays, and we listen to some, some information about agricultural fields, scientific fields. Even people are visiting Mars, Mars. Because even this speak, because sometimes I know I feel like I would get some goosebumps because the way they express it, the way they share it, that is that always matters because that is what main aims of radio broadcasts are. Entertainment is the first motto of the radio, and passing the information to the people who are really in need of it, who really need of the information, piece of information would be given information through radio. And education, even education, what course to which course you are to admit to, and what course would be a better something. I mean, education in the sense the course, because in my place, the radio would also broadcast some programs on need in the sense, if at all you want to be a doctor, if at all you want to be an engineer, so after plus two, you could also listen to the programs which are being broadcasted by the radio. That is the very motto. The main aims of radio broadcast is like that. That is what radio education and main aims of radio thing is about. I mean, essential production techniques. This occurs if you are assume that you are working for the radio. You are, I think, a writer. You are a producer. You are a technician in technical staff in radio sphere. Something you are writing for the ear, not for the visibility, not for the eye, not for something you are going to feel it. You are going to write for the year. That should be the basic specificity. A script writer should know that. Getting my point, my dear student. So essential production technique is the first point is writing for the year. The second point is focusing and recentering, and you're focusing thing and recentering. And once it is centered, once it is decentered, again you recentering it. That is the production techniques. It's a wonderful thing because every minute of time you are working for, it would be like challenging because you are there to give some good program, special program. You are supposed to get some acclamations from the listeners. That is what you are always working for it. That is self evaluations where you are lagging behind, where you have failed to reach the people, where you are not it was not challenging. That is what essential production techniques you are supposed to keep it in mind. Writing for the year and focusing on recentering and self evaluations, that is what you should have, the self evaluation. The next point is the spoken language. The spoken language should be very good, should be precise, should be clear, should be read loudly, should read precisely, and make use of dramatic, sense of reading. Not like you cannot murmur it. You cannot murmur. You cannot, speak to yourself. You are supposed to speak to somebody else. That's what the spoken language, their accent, their intonation pattern, the stress pattern, the pitch of the voice, how the pitch voice should be high, how the pitch voice should be low and moderate and median. This is what a script reader should always keep it in mind. Then sounds of the normal speech in the sense when you are reading a moderate speech you should have it. You cannot make it very loudly. You cannot make it very mildly. Something should have a moderate, which could be audible, which could be very much audible to the listener without any mess, without any confusion. That should be the script writer's point is about. Then informal words, it cannot be formal because when you are reading it, you should have the idea of it because you are very much informal when you are reading because you are supposed as if you are speaking to the other person. When you are inviting people to your home, when guests have come to your home, how you are going to treat them, the way in which you are treating the guest, the way in which you are speaking here, because it should be very informal, not like you cannot be very formal there because as if you are communicating yourself, as if you are holding the conversation with somebody else. That is what you are supposed to act as a reader is supposed to act sitting in a station. That is the thing is about informal words and contractions like isn't, don't, or not like are not, aren't, not aren't. Something that's it, that is it, that's all, no, that is all. There, they are. That is what contractions should not be there. You're supposed to make it full. You should read full and simple sentences. My dear student, please make use of simple sentences because I told you already the in listener, don't assume that listener is very much educated, very much thing. You are supposed to understand how the listeners are like because you make use of simple sentences. You are not there here to show that I'm a. You cannot pomp yourself. I'm this, I'm that. It is not that nobody understands it. Everybody should listen to it. That's what makes use of simple sentences, and incomplete sentences should not be there. You should complete it. And dialogue and character. When you are making use of the dialogue and the character, you should see how this can be used. Like that is what. Uh, narration is plays an important role in radio because when you are narrating something in a radio, you're making use of it. I'll tell you what uh, radio lack of uses narration. uh, to conveys information to the audience more economically than dialogue, because the function of narration is what narration plays an important role in radio. The major function of narration is that it conveys information to an audience more economically than dialogue, because dialogue is something you're supposed to make use of two persons. Dialogue means narration means you're making use of narrating the things sequentially. Sequential narration, that's important. That is what the narration first and foremost provide exposition. It can look backward and provide information about the past, because exposition in the sense you could see the back and provide information about it, because you could give the information about the past when you look at the backward. That is the narration. First point is exposition. Similarly, it can move ahead and throw light on the future. Again, something when you are and when you are giving more information, when you are giving information about past, looking at the past, giving about the past, and also slowly you can move it, move it forward to the future. That is what you can collapse and convey a large amount of information very economically, because we are given to give more and more information economically without not much, cost, because it's a cost effective. Narration also serves to reinforce, providing information and interpretation through narration can reinforce the message and thereby enhance the impact of the situation. Because when you are narrating the situations, these are all the things which would be very effective than the dialogue. See, providing information or interpretation through narration can reinforce the message and thereby enhance the impact of the situation. One must also bear in mind that at no point should be narrator overstate. A narrator should not overstate at any point of time. Too much of reinforcement from the narrator often results to the overkill, because too much of emphasis should not be given as a narrator. It should go smoothly. It should go as if you are something going with the incident, yeah, sequentially. That is should be like that. Um, then thirdly, writers' own comment on the issue through the observation, like the much enrich the meaning of the program. And I'll tell you, besides, the narration can have a filtering effect by capturing incident in situation dramatisms, which is presented straight, can result being excessive and unbearable. In the Mahabharata, I think people must be knowing Mahabharata, directed by Peter Brook, a Western, director, Western man. The narration often performs a filtering function. At the end of the Great War between the royal families, when the Kauravas are completely routed and with Duryodhana unfairly defeated in the battle, Ashwatthama goes out at night and sets the Pandava camp on fire. The slaughter of the sleeping Pandavas is a brutal episode full of blood and gore. Instead of defeating the actual incident, Brooke gets Ashwatthama to confess his crime to a dying Duryodhana to the battlefield. This way, we hear the incident at one remove or the spared the actual violence. Instead of making the whole sentences, you could make it a point, you could explain it again. This is what, my dear students, even I have class tomorrow. Tomorrow also I would, I'm supposed to speak on radio. I would, I think, I would stop here. Any questions, from your side, you could ask me for because on this. Madam, hello.
Sir.
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅದೇ 6:36 ಆಯ್ತು.
Yes, sir. Yeah, completed, sir.
ಮೇಡಮ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಅರ್ಧ ನಾಳೆ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಇನ್ನು
Yes, yes, yes. You can continue
ರೈಟಿಂಗ್
tomorrow, sir.
ಬರೆದ
No
ನಾಳೆ
issue.
ಮುಗಿದೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ನಾಳೆ ಇದ್ರೆ ರೇಡಿಯೋ ಟೆಲಿವಿಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀನಿ.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No issue.
ಆಯ್ತು ಮೇಡಮ್. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಎನಿ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದೇರ್
Yes, sir. Conclude. Yes, sir. Conclude ಮಾಡಿ.
ಕನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ಮಾಡಲಾ? ನಾನೇ ಮಾತಾಡಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಕನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ಮಾಡಲಾ?
Yes, thank you very much, sir. Sir is concluding the session. Sir will continue with the other topic tomorrow. For now, we can leave.
Yeah. Any other questions you have?
Mustafa, Mohammed. Okay. Very good evening. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
I'll stop recording, sir.
Thank you, man. Thank you.